trapped at the bottom of the ocean and running out of oxygen. This is the fear that consumed the world for 4 days as an exhaustive search scoured the ocean for a missing submersible. But as the public prayed for a miracle and prepared for the worst,
it would literally take an act of God for that submarine to come back up.
The spiritual faux pas at the core of the expedition.
In Feng Shui, humans live above ground, and anyone that's not living lives underground.
The shady history of the company behind the submersible.
We all told him, someone is going to be this thing, and you've got to not do it.
And the CEO's risk-taking reputation.
Carbon fiber and titanium, there's a rule you don't do that. Well, I did.
All pointed to one ultimate conclusion.
Then I watched over the ensuing days this whole sort of everybody running around with their hair on fire search, knowing full well that it was futile.
That some believe served as a distraction from the truth.
Was the implosion not as big as we thought it was?
Did The Simpsons just do it yet again?
Why were these people charged $250,000 a ticket? Why are there fraud charges against OceanGate that no one even has been talking about? Why did the man who tried to tell them almost 3 years ago that this submarine was not safe get fired and they still went on this exploration?
Let's take a look at the eerie history and theories surrounding the Titan submersible. The Titanic, a tragic tale that's endured generations, from the ship hitting an iceberg on its maiden voyage to the unsinkable vessel's 2-hour and 40-minute descent into icy waters. It's not hard to understand why. But even to the biggest history buffs, explorers, and cinephiles among us, the wreckage of the Titanic that lies off the coast of Newfoundland, Canada, is something that remains an over 13,000-foot plunge out of reach. That is, unless you've got the cash to make that dream a reality.
I founded OceanGate in 2009 with the goal of expanding awareness of the ocean through manned submersible activity. The reason that it's critical that people go underwater and explore the ocean in person in a submarine is that it establishes an emotional context and an awareness that is personal.
See, for just $250,000 US, one research company presented a voyage once thought impossible.
OceanGate Expeditions offers you the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be a specially trained crew member safely diving to the Titanic wreckage site.
That's right, a seat aboard OceanGate submersible could take passengers over 2 miles undersea to see the real wreckage that was previously limited to photos, replicas, and on-screen reimaginings. And on June 18th, 5 people set out to make this remarkable journey. Those on board the submersible included passengers British businessman Hamish Harding, Pakistani investor Shahzada Dawood and his son Suleiman, as well as the influential French diver Paul-Henri Nargeolet, who acted as the guide for the mission, and Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate Expeditions, who took on the role of pilot.
Hi, my name is Stockton Rush. I'm the CEO and founder of OceanGate. Let's take a look at Titan.
Titan. That was the name of OceanGate's submersible capable of such a journey, and the vessel couldn't be criticized as being too luxurious. Inside the 22-foot, 5-seat sub, passengers were forced to sit on the floor against the vessel's curved walls. And while the view at the bottom might be worth the hours spent without personal space, the Titan had just one porthole for viewing, with the rest of the expedition only captured through monitors. As for where this window was located, that would be in the bathroom.
This is the only toilet available on a deep diving submersible. Best seat in the house.
But as stripped down as the vessel appeared, surely there was a sophisticated system to steer the Titan's 4 electric thrusters around the wreckage, right? Well, that depends. Do you consider a wireless video game controller to be state-of-the-art technology?
If you want to go forward, you press forward. If you want to go back, you go back. Turn left, turn right, go down, go up.
Still, equipped with LED lights, a sonar and Doppler velocity navigation system, and enough oxygen to keep passengers alive for 96 hours, in 2021 and 2022, the Titan had launched successful expeditions.
3,000! Woo! All right. We all have to have a celebration every 3,000.
Way to go.
Wow. Wow, look at that, guys.
And as the Titan was hauled out to sea on a commercial ship, the hatch was bolted shut from the outside and the vessel was submerged from a platform into the Atlantic on June 18. Passengers aboard likely hoped for another success. Unfortunately, this wouldn't be the case. As the world now knows, 1 hour and 45 minutes into the dive,
communication with the submersible was lost. This is about the same time that she was scheduled to drop ballast and touch bottom at near the 2-hour mark. So those may be connected, we're not sure yet. Loss of communication with the vessel below 3,000 meters is not uncommon as it happened during testing. So it was not unexpected.
The Titan lost contact with the Polar Prince, its mothership, and with that, everything else above sea level. And as news of the missing submersible broke, it seemed everyone could agree on one sentiment: something was off. As for what exactly was off, well, the internet was rife with theories. Had the world-famous diver who'd conducted the first recovery dive to the Titanic wreckage back in 1987 brought a curse with him when he boarded the vessel?
This article talks about Paul Henry and his over 35 expeditions to the Titanic site. Apparently, he was the first person to recover a remnant at that site, which was a silver plate. Now, I don't know what y'all personally believe about taking items from sites where tragedy has struck, but it's giving Pompeii.
Had the mission's failure to follow an ancient practice made it doomed from the start?
In feng shui, humans live above ground, and anyone that's not living lives underground. What this tells us is any disruption with sunlight, airflow, or altitude could have major impact on a human's well-being.
Or was the disappearance of the Titan grounded not in the spiritual, but the mechanical? After all, the submersible was experimental, and the liability waiver passengers signed before the voyage made the risks of boarding more than clear.
Experimental submersible vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. Where do I sign?
In fact, according to former Titan passenger Mike Rice, he was well aware that the voyage undersea could be the last adventure he ever took.
Anyone who booked this trip knew it was going to be risky. You sign a lengthy waiver that lists really 100 ways that...
They mentioned 3 times on page 1. And so it's never far from your mind. You try and put it out, but as I was getting onto the sub, I mean, that was my thought, well, this could be the end.
So had passengers simply taken a miscalculated risk, or had OceanGate sold these adventurers a dream built on false promises? See, while the research company claimed their vessel was designed with the expertise of Boeing, NASA, and the University of Washington, both Boeing and the University of Washington have since come forward to state they were not involved in the Titan's creation. And then there was OceanGate's founder, who former passengers might have praised.
I felt he was a visionary. He was doing something no one else was doing.
Going down with a researcher who would say, hey, I've researched this type of fish my entire life. And they say, that's the first time I've seen it in this fashion. And I've had new insights into that. That really is a moving time for me to hear that.
Yet the internet wasn't so sold on.
Oh, I know a scam when I see one. Because this dude wasn't from the start. And look what he controlled us with. A Dreamcast controller on Amazon that go for $30 and less.
From the public's perspective, it seemed like Stockton Rush wore his lack of caution as some sort of badge.
General MacArthur said, you're remembered for the rules you break. And, you know, I've broken some rules to make this. I think I've broken them with logic and good engineering behind me.
But could logic and good engineering really replace industry standards? Well, Stockton seemed to think it could, even if that meant taking risks with the materials the submersible was built with.
Carbon fiber and titanium, there's a rule you don't do that. Well, I did.
But, of course, there was a reason this rule was in place. See, although some have criticized the Titan for allegedly having exposed wires and using zip ties, Home Depot boxes, and duct tape,
it seems like this submersible has some elements of MacGyver-y jerry-riggedness. I mean, you're putting construction pipes as ballast.
I don't know if I'd use that description of it. So this is what's referred to as syntactic foam. Syntactic foam is foam that doesn't compress under pressure, and it's expensive. This is about $15,000 worth of foam.
According to experts, the real issue with the vessel came down to the experimental design. It turned out the carbon fiber Stockton implemented was a material that hadn't been pressure tested over time, putting its ability to withstand repeat trips to the wreckage into question.
But Crest says it also requires rigorous inspection.
Any kind of a scratch, a nick, or a gouge, or a hole is going to cause a stress concentration.
On top of this danger, Stockton's use of mixed materials that might not bond well only heightened the potential for disaster. Stockton also used acrylic for the viewport, which was only certified to a depth of 4,300 feet, whereas the Titanic site is at a depth of 12,500 feet.
So what's the material of it?
It's acrylic, plexiglass.
Wow.
Yeah, and it is 7 inches thick, weighs about 80 pounds. And when we go to the Titanic, it will squeeze in about 3/4 of an inch. It just deforms. And before it cracks or fails, it starts to crackle. And so you get a huge warning if it's going to fail.
Could this be the reason previous trips on the Titan ran smoothly, just to be a test of time due to this experimental design? But as the public remained fixated on the Titan's disappearance, one relative of a passenger appeared to have their attention focused anywhere but. The behavior of Brian Saz, the stepson of passenger Hamish Harding, struck some as odd, as he quote-tweeted a thirst trap to flirt, posted a consoling DM he'd received from Blink-182 drummer Travis Barker, and even attended the band show all while his stepfather was still missing.
And he has said, "It might be distasteful being here, but my family would want me to be at the Blink-182 show, as it's my favourite band and music helps me in difficult times."
Probably keep that to yourself,
Keep it to yourself. The whole world's anxious on your family's behalf. Keep it to yourself that you think this will soothe me to go to a Blink-182 show.
Even Cardi B had advice for Brian, telling him what he should be doing in such uncertain times.
You're supposed to be at the house sad. You're supposed to be crying for me. You're supposed to be right next to the phone waiting to hear any updates about me. You're supposed to be counseling your mom. And isn't it sad that you a whole billionaire and nobody gives about you?
But from Brian's perspective, he was coping the only way he knew how to.
I was sitting here yesterday watching the news for 2 days straight. I go to a Blink-182 show because they have a ticket. It wasn't like I was having super fun. It wasn't like I was celebrating, having a great time. I was kind of just listening to some of my all-time favorite songs, kind of like nodding my head and just trying to get off the phone for maybe 2 hours or so and come right back into the drama.
And as he had no money of his own and was currently facing an unnamed legal situation that, due to past alleged crimes of armed robbery, stalking, and threats, could be anything, Brian felt his hands were tied.
The submarine is stuck at the damn Titanic. There's nothing I can do for the situation at all.
But while all of this was happening above surface, what was happening below? The submersible had gone radio silent on June 18th, and as the days ticked on, the chances of survival for those aboard the Titan dwindled along with their oxygen supply.
There's about 40 hours of breathable air left based on that initial report.
With less than 20 hours of oxygen left, there are now signs of life in the search for the missing Titanic submersible.
Breaking news! 12 hours of oxygen remain for the Titanic submarine that has been lost deep in the ocean for multiple days now.
This left experts to go through the worst case, and unfortunately at this point, most likely scenarios. It was possible that the Titan was somewhere at the bottom of the ocean, trapped in the wreckage it came to visit.
If it is stuck, for example, inside the Titanic, there could be little the crew would be able to do except wait for help.
And if the batteries that power communication, the engine, lights, and heating short-circuited, the passengers would be left just as helpless.
A catastrophic failure would have left the sub dead in the water, in complete darkness, and in freezing temperatures.
In fact, whether the vessel was without an electrical system due to some emergency, tangled in one of the ghost nets the ocean floor is littered with, or bobbing at the Atlantic's surface, there was nothing passengers of Titan could do but wait for rescuers to unbolt the hatch of the submersible. So searchers, along with remotely operated vehicles, continued to comb the water for the missing submersible.
With less than 8 hours of oxygen left, a desperate search continues for the missing sub with 5 people on board.
Search teams from the US and Canada are racing against time to locate a submersible. Ships and planes are involved in the search in the North Atlantic, around 640 kilometers or 400 miles off the coast of Newfoundland in Canada.
And just when hope was fading, a sign of life signaled from the vastness of the Atlantic.
5 people that are trapped in a submarine at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean are likely alive, because just a few hours ago Rolling Stone released a headline saying that searchers for the Titanic tourist sub heard banging at 30-minute intervals from the area where the sub disappeared.
Now, the fact that it's happening at 30-minute intervals says to me that he's sending a message.
But if the noise was the passengers of the Titan calling for help, was this discovery good or horrifying.
This means that there's some hope, but it also introduces some terrifying realities that there are 5 human beings stuck in the deepest, darkest part of the planet, one of the most inaccessible places on planet Earth, and for the past few days they've been contemplating their own demise.
According to former anti-submarine officer Timothy James, the occupants of the vessel weren't out of the danger zone.
We're also making the assumption that the electrical systems are working. Also unlikely. If they were working, they likely would be communicating. At about 13,000 feet, and this does vary, the temperature is approximately 32 degrees. What I want you to do is go empty out your refrigerator, lock yourself in it, and realize that that's 40 degrees. See how long you last.
And then there was the matter of where the Titan now likely lay, a depth that makes the Statue of Liberty look like a paperweight, and previous shipwrecks look like wades into the kiddie pool.
Considering that the Titan weighs 23,000 pounds, and considering that it could potentially be at 12,500 feet or more below the water, which has an immense amount of buoyant force in the downward direction, even if they found this missing submarine, it's unlikely that this vessel would be able to pull it back up.
Still, just because searchers heard something didn't mean the noise was coming from the Titan.
Let me tell you, you hear all kinds of things under the water. Could it be the Titan? Yes, but I wouldn't get your hopes up just yet.
The Coast Guard has just announced that they're projecting oxygen is going to run out for the 5 passengers on the missing Titan submersible by tomorrow morning, Thursday at 7:08 a.m.
On June 22nd, just after the vessel was set to run out of its estimated oxygen.
All right, y'all, it's about 9 a.m. over here, my time in Missouri, and we have officially entered the hour of no more oxygen.
The U.S. Navy reported that an anomaly had been detected. As for what this anomaly was, well, according to acoustic data captured just hours after Titan lost contact, it sounded a lot like an implosion. A disturbing shock to some, and to others, unimaginable. Literally. After all, an explosion is easy enough to visualize, but what did an implosion look like? Various users took to the internet to find examples of the soda can-like inward cracking that would have happened to the Titan.
This is an example of what the submarine would look like when it implodes. Absolutely horrifying.
This is what happened to the Titan.
And that same day, a discovery was made on the ocean floor near the Titanic.
This morning, an ROV, or remote operated vehicle, from the vessel Horizon Arctic discovered the tail cone of the Titan submersible.
All that searching and hopes for a miracle had been for nothing. The Titan had imploded.
The debris of the missing submersible Titan was found about 1,600 feet from the Titanic wreckage.
It is over. The missing submarine has been found.
Within the past few minutes, we saw a tweet from the U.S. Coast Guard saying a debris field was discovered within the search area by an ROV near the Titanic.
The debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber. I offer my deepest condolences to the families. I can only imagine what this has been like for them, and I hope that this discovery provides some solace during this difficult time.
And a letter from OceanGate Expeditions confirmed the passing of all 5 passengers. Amidst the heartbreaking news, the New York Times reported the 5 passengers spent their final moments listening to a playlist with their favorite music in darkness. But with an event unseen to the eyes, people naturally waited to see evidence the submersible had really taken the lives of the 5 explorers. It wouldn't take long. On June 28th, at the Canadian Coast Guard Pier in St. John's, Newfoundland, fragments from the debris field were retrieved from the ocean's depths, and possibly something else. See, as Mythbusters footage of the effects of an implosion on a fake diver making its rounds online suggested, the discovery of any human remains from the Titan implosion was likely impossible. As TikToker Lauren the Mortician put it,
the pressure is so great that the bodies will liquefy, like when you crush an egg with your bare hands.
But then there was an update.
US Coast Guard believes it's recovered human remains from the wreckage of a submersible which imploded in the Atlantic Ocean. All 5 people on board.
And to the internet's surprise, these presumed human remains were found near the wreck.
This is some big breaking news because they always said if there was an implosion, human remains would be non-existent. Was the implosion not as big as we thought it was?
But perhaps the confusion simply came down to wording.
Personally, I think they're being kind of loose with their definition of human remains, because it's not going to be any skin or muscle or bone. All of that stuff was turned into human gel. In the crock pot of there are a lot of crevices, little nooks and crannies where some of that gel may have been injected at high pressure. However, I think it's far more likely that we're talking about like dental hardware, a filling, a bridge, maybe a gold tooth, something like that.
But whether those aboard the Titan had passed instantly or not, it was a fate many couldn't bear to think about, especially when it came to the youngest passenger, Suleiman Dawood. One user tweeted, "Whatever your view on the billionaires of the Titanic submarine expedition, the 19-year-old on board, Suleiman Dawood, was just a kid, terrified, uncertain, eager to please his dad, a world of possibilities he will now never know, gone at the hands of OceanGate. Rest in peace." As it turned out, the 19-year-old had not only gone on the voyage to please his father.
His aunt described Suleiman as, quote, not being very up for it. He was terrified.
It appeared Suleiman kept a brave face on for his mother, with the decision to take her place on board the vessel altogether.
It was supposed to be Shahzada and I going down. Shahzada was so excited to go down. He was like a little child. I missed him.
And then there were others left behind by the victims of the implosion, including the young son of Hamish Harding, who'd once accompanied his father on adventures, and the wife of CEO Stockton Rush, who was the descendant of 2 former Titanic passengers. Yet not everyone was sympathetic to what had happened to those aboard the Titan. Online, jokes about looking for washed-up wallets on the beaches of Canada, memes about the Titan's shoddy workmanship, and the passengers getting the full Titanic experience, and GTA mods of the OceanGate experience quickly collected likes. Some even took the extra step to leave bad reviews for the Amazon controller that steered the submersible. Only goes down, up doesn't work, constantly disconnects when you need it most. Even one Subway shop joined the conversation with a sign reading, "Our subs don't implode," and received backlash right away. And while some felt guilt for engaging with this content on social media,
y'all going to hell. Oh my goodness.
What's this? Huh?
others felt the elites who'd chosen to spend $250,000 to visit the wreck were deserving of the backlash. As one user tweeted, "My humble little suggestion is this. If you don't want people to make jokes about your unfortunate demise, don't live in such wild, blatant excess that it seems like farce." And as users continued to joke about the tragedy, some were already profiting as the Temu app started selling an OceanGate submarine toy. But just as the internet reacted to the implosion with an array of disbelief, sympathy, and humor, others had questions, the most pressing being, what could have been done? Well, according to someone uniquely positioned to speak on the subject, a lot. Titanic director James Cameron has visited the wreckage 33 times, and was not only a submersible designer himself, but had deep connections to the community, meaning he, along with fellow experts, knew the Titan's fate as early as the morning of June 19th.
A loud bang on the hydrophones, loss of transducer or transponder, loss of comms. I knew what happened.
Then I watched over the ensuing days this whole sort of everybody running around with their hair on fire search, knowing full well that it was futile.
But even before the Titan submersed into the deep for its final voyage, the submersible had sparked worries.
Many people in the community were very concerned about this sub.
And according to Cameron, major players in the submersible engineering community had aired these concerns to the company's CEO.
I'm struck by the similarity of the Titanic disaster itself, where the captain was repeatedly warned about ice ahead of his ship, and yet he steamed at full speed into an ice field on a moonless night.
One such warning came from leading deep-sea specialist Rob McCallum, who warned Stockton in a 2018 email that using prototype unclasses technology could put an entire industry at risk. The CEO's reply? He brushed the comment off by claiming industry players were standing in the way of innovation. Since Guillermo and I started OceanGate, we have heard the baseless cries of "you are going to end someone" way too often. I take this as a serious personal insult, Stockton wrote. Aaron Amick, a U.S. Navy contractor with 20 years' experience serving aboard U.S. Navy submarines, called attention to a concerning interview Stockton had with a Teledyne Marine representative.
Yes, I mean, when I started the business, one of the things you'll find, there are other sub-operators out there, but they typically have gentlemen who were ex-military submariners, and you'll see a whole bunch of 50-year-old white guys. I wanted our team to be younger, to be inspirational. So we've really tried to get very intelligent, motivated, younger individuals involved, because we're doing things that are completely new. We're taking approaches that are used largely in the aerospace industry, is related to safety and some of the preponderance of checklists, things we do for risk assessments and things like that are more aviation related than ocean related. And we can train people to do that. We can train someone to pilot the sub. We use a game controller.
Aaron acknowledged that young people tend to look up to other young, successful people, but pointed out the importance of expertise.
But also, you don't want to just only hire young college graduates that you would then train to inspire the next generation. You have to have subject matter experts at some point in the chain, but you don't seem to have a subject matter expert that's from the submarine community. The team included technicians that threw a hammer in college was his qualification. Another college graduate was a surfer.
Aaron also addressed Stockton's inspiration from the aviation community.
Well, one of the worst non-flight disasters in NASA history was from the Apollo 1, where 3 astronauts lost their lives doing a systems check on the launch pad while they were bolted into their capsule. This is a very important lesson learned that apparently Stockton didn't learn from, or at least forgot.
Back in 2015, deep sea engineer Liz Taylor had approached Stockton with her own qualms about the project, specifically the material Stockton was using, carbon fiber.
We all told him, you know, someone is going to be this thing, and you've got to not do it. It being hollow on the inside, or just, you know, one atmosphere on the inside, and having the tremendous pressure of the ocean, trying to push in on it. It just doesn't, it's not the right material.
Submersible pilot and former OceanGate employee David Lockridge had expressed similar concerns, which led to his dismissal from the company.
He warned that the Titan was not safe, and he particularly looked at, or rather pointed out, the window, and said that the window was not certified to go to those depths of 4,000 meters. Perhaps it could only go to, say, half that, or perhaps less.
Back in 2018, industry leaders, deep sea explorers, and oceanographers collectively expressed their concern in a letter to Stockton, warning him that OceanGate's experimental approach could have catastrophic consequences on the industry. The letter also pointed out that OceanGate falsely advertised the Titan as meeting safety standards, stating it was misleading to the public and breaches an industry-wide professional code of conduct. But according to James Cameron, the Titan did have a safety measure in place in case the vessel didn't hold up to the pressure. It just wasn't a very good one.
OceanGate sub had sensors on the inside of the hull to give them a warning when it was starting to crack. And I think if that's your idea of safety, then you're doing it wrong.
And it seemed the passengers of the Titan may have had such a warning before the submersible imploded.
We understand from inside the community that they had dropped their ascent weights and they were coming up trying to manage an emergency.
According to the New York Times, in 2021, the Titan had also attempted to drop its weights during a mission after the vessel lost its propulsion system. However, the mechanism designed to drop the weights didn't work, forcing passengers to rock back and forth until the ballast was released from the top. It's unclear if passengers aboard the Titan's final expedition had to do the same, but the weights were dropped, possibly along with something else. See, in dire situations, the landing fairing of the submersible could have also been dropped, and as the Titan's fairing was found near the wreckage, it's likely Stockton made a last-ditch effort to reach the surface before imploding.
He realized, oh god, we're going to implode because we're not ascending fast enough. So what made him drop the fairing as well, and not just the sandbags? Was it just the pressure gauge freaking him out, or was there a giant dent in the top of the structure right before implosion? And letting go of that fairing was the last thing the CEO ever did.
And it's possible the Titan would have met its end much earlier if most of the vessel's trips weren't abandoned due to weather conditions or technical problems. That's CBS correspondent David Pogue, whose plunge aboard the Titan in 2022 failed to reach the murky depths of the ocean not once, but twice.
There's no GPS underwater. So the surface ship is supposed to guide the sub to the shipwreck by sending text messages.
Turn 30 degrees right.
But on this dive, communications somehow broke down. The sub never found the wreck.
We were lost.
We were lost for 2.5 hours.
And while the third trip was a success, YouTuber Jake Kohler, known as DalmyD online, never made it to the wreckage.
I think the anxiety comes from when you go in the submarine, someone on the outside literally bolts you shut.
Weather conditions as well as a ghost net that damaged the vessel meant 2 trips were canceled, and when Jake did finally make it aboard the Titan, his dive never left the platform. But looking back, the YouTuber believes what seemed like bad luck at the time could have saved his life, seeing as his trip occurred just days before the Titan was destroyed.
If the fog didn't roll in and cancel the dive, who knows, maybe we would have left that platform and maybe we would have imploded. I can tell you right now, I feel like I dodged a bullet, but I also feel very bad for the families who lost loved ones.
And Jake wasn't the only one who felt he'd cheated death.
All I could see when I saw that father and son was myself and my son. That could have been us in that picture.
Jay Bloom and his son Sean made the decision to give up their seats on the June 18th expedition after they became concerned with the vessel's durability as well as the lack of caution in the man at the helm of the mission after Stockton flew out on an experimental aircraft to convince them to take the trip.
He had so much passion for the project that he was blinded by it. He wasn't objective, and he didn't look at things that I saw and that others saw that were problematic because it just didn't fit his narrative.
But for those who had taken trips aboard the Titan before the vessel met its untimely end, complications were a norm.
There were communication problems on every trip I've taken. Again, I don't think that's their fault as much as just that's the nature of the beast.
And even if a friend of Stockton believed the Titan was flawed after hearing cracking while on the craft,
at one point I was actually even able to drive the submarine towards deeper water by the sound of the cracking getting louder.
In 2023, complications continued as the first 4 trips of the year were canceled. And if this video allegedly posted by an OceanGate crew member on June 11th is accurate, it's possible the vessel was in no shape to carry passengers just a week later.
Okay. Forward starboard tank, all the valves are closed and there is a little leak on top of that.
But naturally, on the heels of tragedy comes conspiracy. And one major theory that's gripped the internet since news of the implosion suggests there's no need to grieve the loss of the Titan's 5 passengers. After all, why mourn the living? According to certain social media users, Stockton allegedly faked his passing to start a new life after allegedly being sued for embezzlement. As for the pilot's passengers, well, as society's elites, who could say they hadn't found themselves in debt, legal issues, or worse?
Easy to set up an alternate identity with enough money to live very comfortably for the rest of your life out of your billionaire fortune. Then go on a sub, 15-20 meters underwater, transfer off the sub onto another vehicle, and then leave the sub to sink and implode, leaving no trace of your body in the meantime. Damn good way to fake your own.
In fact, there was already a conspiracy floating around the web about Titan passenger Shahzada Dawood.
Just so happens that one of the passengers that is missing is the one that manufactured the same chemical that was involved in the Palestine, Ohio train wreck, also partnering with the company that is responsible for the 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate that went missing between Wyoming and California this year.
Yet factually, the conspiracy doesn't seem to hold weight, as Engro, the company Shahzada acted as vice chairman for, was not the same company tied to the train wreck, nor does it have any clear link with the company missing chemicals. Still, the theory that 5 billionaires were faking an escape for whatever reason wasn't totally out of the picture, as an interesting question was raised. Where are the pictures of them getting in this vessel for departure? Not one pic? As we know, there is footage of previous trips on OceanGate's social media, but the only photo available of the June 2023 trip showed the Dawoods right before they boarded the sub. And with conflicting theories on whether the Titan sub imploded deep in the ocean on the first day,
it's been revealed top secret US Navy microphones detected the implosion days ago, just hours after the Titan set off to explore. It was heard in the general area where the submersible was when it lost communication.
Or was near the ocean surface days later.
It also makes it much more likely, given that it's been detected by a sonobuoy, that the noise is coming from the surface as opposed to the seabed.
This only continued to fuel this conspiracy even more. Then there was the theory that the worldwide attention of the Titan story, whether real or fake, was to scare people from taking trips down to the Titanic. The reason? Well, perhaps to continue keeping popular conspiracies a mystery and prevent other ocean tales from being explored. And while theories like this rage on, others were more alarmed that a certain sitcom known to foreshadow future events had predicted the submersible tragedy. In an old episode of The Simpsons, Homer found himself stuck in an underwater vessel with dwindling oxygen levels. But according to online users, this wasn't the only way the episode mirrored the tragedy.
And during their dive, they spot a boat split in half.
See you soon, Homer. We got somebody else coming in.
They cut contact with Homer. Something else I feel is important to note is that Mason Fairbanks here is British. But not just that, he was a British adventurer. And on that Titan submarine is a British adventurer.
This episode premiered in the 17th season in 2006, one viewer noted. The fact it was season 17, so 2006 plus 17 is 2023. And although it seemed an episode of Family Guy more accurately foreshadowed the event...
Stewie, why'd you bring me all the way out here? Now that we're eccentric rich guys, we're going to go down 20,000 feet and pants James Cameron while he's excavating the Titanic.
What made The Simpsons prediction all the more eerie to some was the man attached to the show. Remember former Titan passenger Mike Rice? Well, turns out he's a writer and producer for The Simpsons. And there were some other pieces of information that didn't quite make sense, raising more questions, like OceanGate taking 8 hours to report the missing sub to Canada's Coast Guard after it lost contact on June 18th, or the US Navy allegedly detecting the Titan sub implosion with their top-secret acoustic system the day the vessel went missing.
I was an intelligence specialist with the Navy, and what we are saying right now, listen, the whole concept of we've only explored 8% of the ocean, dude, no. They are able to check anything underwater. That is the craziest bit of information that they have ever shared.
This just makes me sick that the media for days would lead the public to believe that there were people on this sub still alive when all the time the Navy knew that the sub had imploded.
But if this was the case, what were the banging noises heard on June 21?
And the mysterious thing to me now is that once the debris was found, the US Coast Guard then said, oh yes, our acoustic network detected a loud bang at the time that communication was lost. I wonder why this information was not distributed more widely at an earlier stage.
Okay, so who was tapping? Why have I not seen any videos of anybody asking where was the tapping coming from? If they heard tapping, what, like a day or two ago?
Some believed it may be supernatural. After all, the Titan sub was traveling toward a memorial site. However, a more likely answer to the noise could be from marine life, remotely operated vehicles, the Titan debris hitting something, or simply ocean noise. Conspiracies aside, some people believe Stockton was full of ego and greed for money and would unfortunately bring down others with him. According to Las Vegas financier Jay Bloom, who backed out of a trip on the Titan over safety concerns, Stockton wasn't really looking to build a tourism business to the Titanic. He wanted to research and document the decay of the ship over time. Multiple dives to the site cost a lot of money. A way to finance a scientific observation was to bring observers down with him, and others were less concerned with potential theories and more focused on what world events were shoved under the rug, while the news cycle was taken over by the hunt for the missing submersible.
So while everyone's distracted, I was like, what has BlackRock and the other big banks been doing this entire week while no one's looking? BlackRock and JP Morgan helped set up Ukraine Reconstruction Bank. It's so kind of them. They also helped Ukraine restructure their debt. You know that phrase where, the bank actually owns your home, they own your... BlackRock did that for an entire country.
Some people called attention to a sunken vessel in Greek waters just days before the Titan went missing, asking others not to get distracted by rich, irresponsible people.
How could we be so stupid? While we're distracted worrying about 5 billionaires, 750 men, women, and children on an immigrant boat in Greece have disappeared. And the way that they so-called capsize is still unknown. And if you know anything about boats, in order to capsize, it's kind of like the Titanic. You have to hit something. You have to go over. The whole boat has to turn.
But as the search for the Titan has come to its tragic conclusion and the public has begun to focus attention elsewhere, loose ends are still being wrapped up. While experts have suggested either a leak in the electrical system or structural issues could have been responsible for the implosion, a formal investigation into the matter is currently underway, as is a criminal probe by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, as they investigate if any criminal, federal, or provincial laws were broken before the catastrophe. And they might not be far off, as a former senior OceanGate employee recently shared some shady business practices, alleging Stockton strategically structured everything to be out of U.S. jurisdiction. In legal filings, the submersible was developed and assembled in Washington, registered in the Bahamas, and operated outside the territorial waters of the U.S. Under U.S. regulations, you can unalive crew, but if you unalive a passenger, you're in big trouble. And so everyone was classified as a mission specialist. There were no passengers. The word passenger was never used, the former senior employee alleged. And while not criminal, OceanGate had a strange protocol in place. Trips would automatically be canceled if a celebrity or member of media was on the dive, seeming to imply they were potentially avoiding bad press. After all, some of their design was experimental. And in May 2023, a trip was canceled when Arnie Weissman, editor-in-chief for the Travel Weekly, showed up to the mothership Polar Prince. OceanGate stated it was due to weather conditions, but Arnie noticed the strange protocol about media members. And on July 6th, OceanGate Expeditions quietly ceased all operations, making a banner statement on their website. Then, on July 12th, OceanGate quietly removed all media footage on their Facebook page and YouTube channels, which included footage about the Titan sub's build, platform checks, incremental testing, and previous dives. So, is there any hope for justice for those who lost their lives to the Titan? Well, while the company's waiver appeared to give passengers thorough warning about the dangers of boarding the experimental vessel, according to legal experts, this doesn't necessarily protect OceanGate from a lawsuit.
If these folks, when they issued or signed those waivers, didn't know of all these issues, likely lawsuits or litigation would survive. Waivers aren't an absolute defense. Most people a lot of times will say, hey, they signed a waiver. That's not how it works in the law.
You need to show that a defendant knew that there was a problem and failed to do something about it.
If the company cut corners and didn't use proper materials to withstand the pressure, that could be potentially something that you don't waive because you have a reasonable reliance that the company is going to do their job and not act grossly negligent.
So while the company and its co-founder have repeatedly claimed passengers were aware of the risks the expedition entailed,
at least when I was there, we always were very transparent with anyone who was going to join us on expeditions about the risks involved.
An example could be made out of the Titan catastrophe yet.
He was taking an innovative approach, and he didn't want to be bogged down by the time wasting and that it would take them so many years to get their heads around the material he was using and the concepts he was implementing.
And according to experts, this shouldn't scare you from touring the ocean, as engineer Bart Kemper explained.
The narrative did change from the beginning, where they were calling this a tourist sub and then changed it to an experimental sub. That hopefully has educated the public that this was not the same as the tourist subs that operate safely for decades in various parts of the world. It's worth noting there is 9 or 10 other submersibles that can reach the depth of the Titanic, and everyone except Stockton's is done to class.
Through a combination of idealistic intentions.
For me, the whole mission is how do we get access to the deep ocean that isn't, limited by government research dollars or billionaires' yachts. And so the Titanic is the way to do that.
And unheeded warnings.
And the BBC has seen email messages showing that warnings over the safety of OceanGate's Titan sub were repeatedly dismissed.
It seems the Titan was doomed from the start.
One of the saddest aspects of this is how preventable it really was, and that to me is the greatest heartbreak of the whole thing.
Bearing a tragic reminder of how quickly innovation can come at the expense of human lives.
Sometimes lawsuits have to be filed to ensure this never happens to anybody ever again.
This is the story of the Titan, OceanGate's submersible that wasn't built to withstand the ocean's depths.